Correct. So you get 20% of a break on each floor for a maximum of 80. And at the back of my staff report, there's a table of the various projects. Very few of them got to 80. Some were 40, some were 60, not many were 80. The other piece is that, again, the taxing districts that don't like it could opt out. So there's that flexibility as well.
Could you speak more about how that works, the opt-out piece?
So as part of the process, I would send out a letter and probably visit with the taxing districts that might have the biggest heartburn, explain it to them. They would have the opportunity to write a letter back to me and to the state voicing their support or objection, and the state could then say, well, as an example, the vector control doesn't want to be part of this, then they would still, they would opt out of the program. They would get 100% of the property taxes on the entire development. But the others that did not opt out, that wanted to be part of the vertical housing program, would give up some property tax revenue on those additional stories that you could argue may not have occurred at all but for this incentive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let's be clear about that, that if you were to buy a lot across the street for $200,000 and you were to build a 2- or 3-story building, it's going to be worth more than the building that you replaced it with, even if you were taxing it at a reduced amount. So there's going to be a net increase to every taxing district compared to what was already there.
And as we know, in downtown Canby, we haven't seen any new development, except for the Anders building, in quite a while. So, you know, it's not like we're turning developers away that are wanting to build 4-story buildings.
My second question is regarding the fact that this program does sunset at the end of next year. You mentioned some rumblings. Do we have any indication of whether we think that this is going to be a success at the legislature to have it lifted or extended on that sunset? Or are we looking at a 1-year window for these buildings to happen?
I've spoken with a couple people who, the rumblings really are early stage. I mean, we'll probably know a lot more with the new session as it starts to gear up. I'm not aware of anyone saying, yes, we are definitely going to go push for an extension. I think it's likely, though, whether it's successful.
Okay. So if it doesn't extend or lift the sunset, then we're truly looking at 1-year time to just have the plans in, or to have a begin construction?
I clarified that with the expert as well, and they said that a application needs to have construction drawings. It doesn't have to have passed through the building department and gotten all of the approvals, but it has to have specificity about how many square feet is going to be for housing, how much for residential, because the calculator needs that. And then they need to deliver. So they start getting the abatement once the certificate of occupancy has been approved. So they can take a while to build it, you know, but once they build it, they get their certificate of occupancy, that's when they get the abatement. So there's incentive to move it along.
And it then would be an incentive to move our properties within this year.
Exactly. That's right.
It's a doubler.
Right.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, property tax abatements tend to get to be emotionally charged topics, you know, just because of past history in Oregon, say out in Washington County with certain high-profile builders. But and I, in general, am not I kind of tend to be more about property tax abatements. But I get the incentive. It's the whole. If not for that, maybe the project wouldn't be there, and it is a modest 20%. Per floor. I get that. While we got John here, and we've already got you here, I'm interested in your comments about how you feel that kind of incentive plays versus, say, SDC breaks or an SDC holiday.
It probably will depend on the developer. I think one of the things I like about this is as Councilor Parker pointed out, first of all, the taxing jurisdictions are actually going to make more money than probably would have been the case.
In the long run.
In the long run, and actually even in the short run, because you're getting X
Because of
percent of a
the
bigger
80%
building.
of the 20, yeah.
And I think in an unproven market, we may be shocked, but in an unproven market, the rents probably aren't going to be enough to get you there. I think this will pass the but-for test. I think, having been in this business for a while, incentives become, one developer once told me, incentives are like a drug. I mean, it just,
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it does behoove you to look at this. If it is extended, it's your prerogative to say, if we're wildly successful and we get 3 or 4 vertical housing projects, then it's like, gosh, the rents are now going up to $215 a square foot, $220. Portland had to make the hard decision because developers had gotten addicted to that drug, but they said, the Central City tax abatement, they cut it off because market rate stuff no longer needed that help. You should love being in that position.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not there yet. So I believe it passed the but-for test. I'm not answering your question. Vertical housing is really critical at this stage in your downtown development. If you could do something with SDCs on top of that, some developers, I'm sure, would say yes to that as well. But
I'm just curious about, just off the cuff, what's your heart says? Are they both just kind of levers, or does one tend to be sweeter than the other?
We think the vertical housing is a 10-year deal versus SDC is a one-time.
Kind of one-time cash deal for the developer up front.
Do you have SDC financing, 10-year financing, as allowed by state law? Because that's something you might want to look at. You get the SDCs, but you get them paid over time. So you might want to.
As John mentioned, it is required by law, and we did offer that to one of our new industrial businesses that recently built a new building. I won't give the address, but, and it made a difference for her.
Okay.
And Cub generously extended the same offer, and she has repaid on time, and it was only 4 years that she asked for. And the situation she was in at that point was that the value of her collateral had reduced with the recession. And so the bank wasn't able to loan her as much as she needed for the project. And then the SDCs came on top of it, and that was a surprise. And having a little bit of flexibility, that made the difference for her to move forward.
Gotcha. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
My gut is the housing, especially with your SDC financing, a developer would probably choose the vertical housing tax abatement if you had to choose one.
Oh, okay. Good.
We're talking about this in a commercial zone, but is also in an urban renewal district. How does that affect tax abatement for the taxing purposes for urban renewal?
Oh,
Good question.
James?
Again, the development that you're seeing now primarily in downtown is single-story. And you haven't seen a lot, but if you have, it's been single-story. And what this would incent is multiple stories. And you're getting all of the property taxes on that first story and on the additional stories. So the urban renewals, the city's kept whole, and the other taxing districts are kept whole, and urban renewal as well. So you're not losing, you're gaining.
And you'd probably be dollars ahead just on your first floor retail in comparison with the existing improvements on the property, and then everything in the subsequent floors would be additional tax revenue to the participating jurisdictions.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that these buildings that we're trying to sell have been enjoying complete tax abatement, and so... Very good.
Very good point, Mr.
We owe
Bowman.
the universe.
A sale would be a grand improvement.
And just to clarify, this 10 years is for the project, each project. It doesn't, starting this program or participating in this program doesn't commit us to participate for 10 years, correct?
Absolutely. In fact, the
We could do
city...
it for one building if we wanted.
You could, and the city could write a letter to the state saying, thanks so much, we're done, and at any time.
Thank you.
Well, I think this is, first blush, when I read it, was kind of that, like, to, Council President Dale's comment at the heartburn of abatements, and, what does that what are we then, as a city, then taking on in terms of funding and whatnot? But the pieces, as we're talking, is we're going from zero, as Councilor Coleman has said, to something dramatically more than that. If that, does that spur that piece, is that something we need to seriously look at? And I know that that is one of our charges that we've had over the last couple of years, has been, what are those tools or those, we'll say, development drugs for the developers to get them to look at Canby as a development piece, and this may be something that we try. And then if it works,
Yeah.
great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul, I suppose. So, but that's, any other comments or questions for Renata on this one at all?
Yeah, I think you just have to
we
stay
have
focused on that. You do get a win, especially on that first floor, and then 80% win on the next floor.
Correct.
What direction do we want to give Renata and John and the rest of staff at this point, gang?
I think we should make a motion.
I think Clinton wants to make a motion.
I'm sorry, Kim?
Page 59.
Thank you, Kim.
Oh, Clint's already got
Clint's
it.
got it.
Clint is ready to go.
He's on point today.
Yes, go for it, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I move the city pursue the creation of a vertical housing development zone in Canby's downtown commercial zone as an incentive for more retail and housing development.
Great.
I'll second that.
Great. Motion has been made by Councilor Coleman and seconded by Councilor Parker to approve or direct staff to pursue the creation of a vertical housing development zone in Canby's downtown commercial zone as an incentive for more retail and housing development. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. And before, John, I let you off the hook, I'm going to ask in your vast experience, one of the concerns or perhaps questions that I have is I think a number of our landlords perhaps ask too much in terms of dollars per square foot. How does Canby rank in terms of us compared to other cities that you've worked with? And are we on par, or are we asking an unreasonable amount? I mean, I think what we have building owners that are looking at places like out in Hillsborough, or even as close as Wilsonville, going, well, they're asking for that in Wilsonville, we should be asking for that same amount in Canby. And I was just curious on your thoughts on that as you've been diving into Canby's business.
Yeah, and I don't pretend to say I know all of the rents that are being charged. I think I saw $20 a foot for some of the newer stuff on the highway. I think that's comparable to, the Sherwoods and the Oregon cities. But I'd probably look at it a little bit different way. I want the rents to be high enough that the developer says, oh, if I could get that, then, and with a little bit of flexibility from the city and the tax abatement, I can make it work. They are comparable to the area. I worked briefly with the Main Street program in Oregon City, and I think the rents for the retail for older buildings in downtown are pretty similar to what they're getting there. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. City Administrator's business and staff reports. Any first report out of the gate there, Mr. City Manager?
Actually, I do. I have some very good news to share with you. It's actually news that Amanda should be sharing with you, but she has very graciously stepped aside so that I could present to you a Gold Safety Award to the City of Canby based on your injury frequency rate in your workers' compensation programs. I believe this is the third or fourth year that we have received this award, which means that there was no lost time injury in the last year among employees of the City of Canby. So I think accolades to the employees for maintaining safe practices, to the departments for maintaining good safety programs, and to Amanda for her dogged determination to keep workers in the workforce, even when we need to find alternative work arrangements for them. It really is a big deal for the city and makes a substantial difference in cost of workers' compensation insurance on a year-in and year-out basis.
Great.
And personal note, I have really enjoyed my first 3 days in the city of Canby, and working with each of you has been a pleasure, and with city staff, I'm extraordinarily impressed with the quality of staff in the administrative office and throughout the city. So I would say thank you for making the selection that you did, and I'm enjoying my post and looking forward to a long tenure with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ, as well. In regards to us, wait till you get to know us.
We'll check back with you in a year.
No, Rick, we're glad to have you
That's
here.
actually good news.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here and looking forward to it. So thank you. Last opportunity for Bob to give us some citizen input? No? All right, action review, Kim.
You have adopted Resolution 1200, and you've adopted Ordinance 1404. Staff will launch the request for expressions of interest process to market 4 downtown city buildings for sale or redevelopment, and staff will pursue the creation of a vertical housing development zone.
Great, thank you. Joe, is there an exec session this evening?
There is none.
All right.
Excellent.
And before I ask for an adjournment, I will just remind the viewers at home, fall has arrived rather viciously today with the rain. And with rain comes slick driving. Please drive carefully all day today. Our firefighters and police have been very busy with a number of fender benders today. So please, just slow it down just a hair. All right?
Can we
Please.
also inject the annual reminder of don't blow your leaves into
Yeah, I
the
thought
street?
you were going to the
because-
leaves.
Oh, well, they can feel the storm. There's still so many leaves on trees. So, yes, thank
Winds, they're
you.
going to come down, and then it's raining.
Don't blow your leaves into the street. That'll be something that, yeah, that's just going to get ugly.
It's illegal and bad.
It's illegal and it's bad.
and bad.
We've made it officially illegal tonight?
Opposed to those things that are legal and good.
Legal and good. Illegal and bad, but illegal and good. Okay, on that note, we're getting punchy. I'll take a motion, Mr. Rocha.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Fantastic. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're out. Candy, thank you. Good night.
Good job.